In English we say, I miss you. But in poetry we say, without you there is a hollow space inside me that will never be filled. In English we say, I still love you. In poetry we say, I cannot find a way to untangle my heart from yours. In English we say, I'm sorry. But in poetry we say, I bleed for the pain I caused you as if your wounds were my own. In English we say, can we fix this? In poetry we say, how do I glue back together everything I broke? In English we say, I'm not sure this can be fixed. In poetry we say, it only takes one hole to sink a ship. In English we say goodbye. In poetry we say, I'll keep you tucked away in my heart for the rest of my life.
I'm not here to tell you that it's going to be fixed anytime soon. I'm not here to tell you that tomorrow you're going to wake up and feel better. I'm not here to put all the broken things back together. Because I don't think that's what you need. I think you need permission to feel broken. Permission to miss that person, permission to hurt. I don't think you need a light at the end of the tunnel right now. Because healing can't come before validation. So I'm not going to shower you with sunshine, but I am going to sit with you in the dark. I'm not here to tell you that it's going to be fixed anytime soon. I'm not here to tell you that tomorrow you're going to wake up and feel better. I'm not here to put all the broken things back together. Because I don't think that's what you need. I think you need permission to feel broken. Permission to miss that person, permission to hurt. I don't think you need a light at the end of the tunnel right now. Because healing can't come before validation. So I'm not going to shower you with sunshine, but I am going to sit with you in the dark.
You're not going to find it. You're not going to find what you had with that person ever again. The moving on doesn't come when you find someone just like the love that you lost. The moving on comes when you accept that you're not going to relive the same love twice. You're going to find comfort in someone else's oversized sweatshirts, and you're going to make new inside jokes and laugh uncontrollably. It will never be the same, but it will be good. The moving on comes when you can be grateful for what you had and grateful for what you have.
What if you thought that they were everything? What if it felt like the galaxies had whispered your names in the same breath? What if they became your person? I'm not even going to pretend that I don't miss you sometimes. But recently, I've been reminded of who I used to be, and I can't let her slip through my fingers again. And if I have to let you go to have her, I will choose her every time. I wonder what crossed your mind. After you let the phone ring for the third time, I'm sure it went something like, she's a little bit out of her head. Insane, crazy, drunk, unhinged. After all, isn't that what the girl becomes after you treated your promises like sand that just slipped through your hands? Silly of me to get upset when you didn't follow through with what you said. Insane of me to think that your I love yous meant it when they escaped from your lips. That must have been an accident. I must be confused. I must be deranged. I must be insane. But riddle me this. How is it that I am the one with loose screws when yours are the words that aren't matching what you do? Why am I crazy for calling you 3 times when you are the one who promised to be my lifeline? I met somebody new, and they asked me if I was still in love with you. Without hesitation, I answered no. And although it was the truth, it felt a little like betrayal, and although I didn't lie, it felt a little wrong to say. I'm beginning to realize that to say I do not love you is not to say that I never did. I think there's always going to be a loyal piece of my heart living in the past that still calls you mine. To say that I do not love you now does not speak for our past. It speaks for me in this moment. And I won't lie, it hurts to say, but who I was when I loved you isn't who I am today. To the person I once loved, I hope that you find what you're looking for, and not in a passive-aggressive way. I hope that the world fills you with the things that I couldn't, Or perhaps it is better to say, I hope that you find the things that are meant to fill you now, as I was meant to once. I hope that you hold hands with people who make your heart race. I hope that you find yourself lost in someone else's wishing well eyes. I hope that occasionally you smile when she reminds you a little bit of me. I hope that you don't cling to what once was, and I hope you soak yourself in everything that right now has to offer. But I hope that every so often you find use for the lessons that we taught each other, and you find love for the way that we grew together and then grew apart. To the person that I once loved, I hope that you find what you're looking for. I never wanted to be your first choice. Being your first choice implies that there's a second choice. I wanted to be your only choice. For once, I wanted someone to be so sure of me that everything else disappears. It isn't just that I didn't matter to you. It's that this will be another case in the file cabinet in my mind to prove my hypothesis that I don't matter at all. And the file is getting too big, and my heart is feeling awfully small. And I can't help but wish that you would have proved me wrong. One of the most difficult lessons I've learned is that not everything that you love is meant for you. Being in love with someone and being right for someone aren't the same thing. The same goes for everything in life. You're going to fall in and out of love with a million different places, sunsets, colors, laughs, voices, books, movies, music. And you're going to realize that some loves stay for a lifetime, and some stay for a little while. Some places are your forever home, and some are temporary. Some voices are constant, and some will be echoed in your heart forever. Both of these are real. Both of these are love. And all of this is life. I think a lot about how you're still out there somewhere. Maybe you're doing the dishes, or maybe you have that tired look in your eyes after a long day of work. Maybe your laughter is rolling from your chest in waves. Maybe you still have that irresistible way of making sure everyone else in the room is laughing too. I always told you that the lines in the corners of your eyes were contagious. I just never knew that they would stay with me so long after you've been gone. Even as I write this, I can't help but smile to see you again in my mind. And I wanted you to know that you're welcome to live here in my memory as long as you want. And if we never meet again, if I only get to imagine you in my head, I will still thank this life that it let me know you once. I've always felt that goodbyes were a little harder for me than they are for everyone else. I've always felt that missing people comes more immediately to me and stays a little longer than I would like it to. I've always carried memories like luggage that feels a little too heavy. I love hard, and I don't forget easily. I build memorials in my heart for people who haven't thought about me in months, and I've spent years of my life begging my mind to let me loosen my grip on this suitcase full of love letters from people who didn't mean to write forever after the words I love you. I'm learning to accept that people who carry suitcases full of grief also carry incredible capacities for love. People who are bad at goodbyes know how to value every hello. Missing people is a symptom of caring, and remembering it just means that it mattered, and I think at the end of the day it's okay that you're stuck in my mind. What is it all really worth if it's not hard to say goodbye? The strangest thing was to look at a person I once loved and realize I do not know them anymore. The last thing to burn out wasn't my love, because I'm certain that that flame will exist for you forever. The last thing to fade was not my love, it was my hope. Because I may spend the rest of my life loving you, but I will not spend the rest of my life hoping that you will love me too. You are not a second choice. They didn't choose you not because you were not worthy, but because they weren't built to love you. I know that their arms feel like they were supposed to carry you, but their lack of strength is not a testimony of the weight of your soul, but rather the weakness of theirs. You are not too much. Today I was envious of a goldfish. Somewhere I heard that goldfish have a memory that lasts 3 seconds. I would spend the rest of my life in a fishbowl to forget the way it felt to hold you. I am guilty of loving people who did not love me back. And I will accept whatever fate that sentences me, because if there is one thing I will not do, it is to stop myself from loving. If there's one thing I will not do, it is to muffle my heart. Probably friends. Possibly lovers, but definitely not nothing. Those were the three thoughts in my mind the first time your path crossed mine, when I saw those eyes for the first time. Then I learned your favorite color. Realized how easily you could paint a smile across my serious disposition. I started practicing learning you, thinking about you a little too much in my spare time. And the three thoughts changed. Probably lovers. Possibly friends, but definitely not nothing. Then things started to change. I realized the love only went one way. I started anticipating the feeling of you pulling away. Your sentences became shorter as my grip became stronger on a love that was falling through my fingertips. You took my smile as easily as you had given it. The three thoughts chimed one more time. Probably nothing. Possibly friends, but definitely not lovers. Coming to terms with betrayal is a funny thing. I know that I'm not wounded because you hurt me. I'm hurt because I love you. I'm not dead because you killed me. I'm dead because I thought that you would save me, and you didn't. For a long time, my relationships were littered with disappointment. I realize now that it was partially my fault. Half of the reason for my disappointment was my expectation for you to hold the same love for me as I did for you. For you to have just as much to give as I did. I think maybe sometimes forgiveness comes from a place of realizing I shouldn't have expected so much from a person whose hands were empty to begin with. I should have seen your vacant heart and walked away instead of asking it to love me. I should have realized that sometimes people just don't love you the way you love them. I'm beginning to realize that this has always been about me. There wasn't anything special about your love that should make me crave it the way I did. It was not so rare that I should cry when you gave it to someone else. It didn't hurt because I was missing out on something spectacular. It hurt because you didn't think I was spectacular, and for some reason, I believed you. It is interesting the ways that I will betray myself to love you. It is torture that the narrator in my mind seems to be on your side. It is fatal that I know that I would follow you to the end of myself. All I have to say is that there are kinder ways to leave people. All I have to say is that goodbyes are never good when they're a surprise. All I have to say is that I wish things were different. All I have to say is that I miss you, but in the bitter way, like how I suppose someone would miss the sun in the Arctic, or how I miss the last slice of cake in the fridge that someone else ate. All I have to say is that I'm angry and sad and sometimes even guilty, but only when I convince myself that I'm the reason you're absent. And maybe this isn't all I have to say. Maybe I won't ever run out of all I have to say. Perhaps there aren't enough words to compensate for the ache that you placed in my chest. All I have to say is that I would have loved you here for a lifetime, but I think I will have to love you absent for the rest. Probably friends.
Possibly lovers.
But definitely not nothing.
Those were the three thoughts in my mind the first time your path crossed mine.
When I saw those eyes for the first time.
Then I learned your favorite color.
Realized how easily you can paint a smile across my serious disposition. I started practicing learning you.
Thinking about you a little too much in my spare time.
Then the three thoughts changed.
Probably lovers.
Possibly friends, but definitely not nothing.
Then things started to change.
I realized that the love only went one way.
I started anticipating the feeling of you pulling away.
Your sentences became shorter as my grip became stronger on a love that was falling through my fingertips.
You took my smile as easily as you had given it.
The three thoughts chimed one more time.
Probably nothing.
Possibly friends.
But definitely
not lovers. Lately, all of my poems are coming out unfinished. There are times that we must accept we exist in a world that isn't conclusive. Sometimes Romeo and Juliet don't fall in love. Sometimes they just stop speaking and always wonder what could have been. Sometimes they meet at the wrong time, and Juliet is still stuck on her ex. And sometimes they never meet at all. If nothing else, let it be exactly what it was. Mutual love for a season. A short glimpse of sunlight between tree branches, and then you grew apart. You don't have to hate the present for not telling the story that you had written. After all, the pen never belonged to you. The story was never yours to write, and the ending isn't your battle to fight. You're holding on to a piece of them that isn't even real anymore. That person who used to take care of your heart, that's not who they are now. It's okay to grieve the loss of who they were, but eventually, the funeral has to end. You have to remember who you were before them. A name. That's all that it is. 5 letters. But it's yours. And suddenly, those 5 letters will forever spill out an eternity of stories, promises, and memories that sometimes I wish I could forget. A name. That's all that it is. But I met someone today whose 5 letters were the same, and something inside me twisted into a knot when they said it out loud. I find it a bit criminal that anyone else should be allowed to claim it as their own. A name. Only a few syllables, but I've scribbled it across this page and painted it across the walls of my heart as if you might materialize if I write it down enough times. I'm trying to accept that crossing T's and dotting I's doesn't bring people back. So when they see the way that I flinch when they say it out loud, when they see it in the margins and ask what I've written down, I swallow those 5 letters. And I only say this. A name. That's all that it is. I only miss you on days of the week that end with the letter Y. I guess that's my roundabout way of saying I miss you all the time. You probably don't believe me. It's been forever since I've texted or called. You probably don't think I miss you at all, but I do. I've just never been that great at showing it. I never roll down the windows of my car without wishing you were on the passenger side. I never order my coffee without almost ordering yours as well. I never look at the moon without wondering if you're looking too. So here's my sloppy attempt at reminding you that the sun doesn't rise or set without me thinking of you. I think I'm more of a short-term obsession than a long-term love interest. That may sound conceited, but believe me, I would much rather be loved forever than admired and deserted. I would much rather be given a rose every day than a bouquet in a weekend. But I don't think I'm the kind of person that elicits that sort of affection. So please, before you tell me that you love me, make sure that you're not confusing your love with obsession. Don't give me attention disguised as affection. If you want to love me, please do it with the same patience and attention that grows gardens and creates beauty that lasts. If you're going to love me, please don't do it so fast.
Sometimes we confuse missing a moment for missing a person. When I push replay, it's the same scenes I see again and again. The truth is, those few moments of happiness are not you. They are only a piece of you that I've frozen in time and used to convince myself that somewhere out there, that version of us could still exist. But it can't. I'm clinging to a moment, a snapshot, a memory that's not subject to change. I'm learning to accept that people may come back into your life, but no one has the privilege of bargaining with time, so even if you walked back through this door, I won't expect a person to be a memory. I won't keep replaying moments of my life. I must learn to live in this one. She seems nice, but please don't tell me about the little things she does to make you laugh. Please don't post videos of her dancing around her room. Please don't walk around holding her hand and looking into her soul. Because I have a sense of humor too, and I can dance around the room, and I have hands to hold and a soul to see. She seems nice. But you doing those things with her reminds me that you're not doing them with me.
One of the most difficult lessons I've learned is that not everything you love is meant for you. Being in love with someone and being right for someone aren't the same thing. The same applies to everything in life. You will fall in and out of love with a million different places, sunsets, colors, laughs, voices, books, movies, music. And you will realize that some loves stay for a lifetime, and some stay for a little while. Some places are your forever home, and some are temporary. Some voices are constant, and some will echo in your heart forever. Both of these are real. Both of these are love. And all of this is life. You probably don't notice it, but the world has turned 58 times since the last time I saw you.
30 times since I stopped looking at photos of us together.
And 0 times since the last time I thought about you.
You can call it obsessive, but I call it self-control.
Because if I really said all the things I wanted to say,
we would be here until the earth stopped turning.
To me, doing laps around the earth's core is not a race I feel capable of running without you.
And sometimes it takes everything in me to not pick up the phone and call.
But I don't. Because if I'm going to spin out of control, I'm going to do it with someone who notices every single shift the world makes without me.
And every sunrise they watch when I'm not by their side.
I'm going to find someone who uses me to calculate time.
I want to be someone you can't stay away from. I want to be like your bed in the morning. It takes everything to leave its warmth, and at the end of the day, you always return. I realize that I'm someone you need to stay away from. I realize that I'm more like a fire. You want to get close, but I keep burning you. I am your destruction, and I hate that.
Albert Einstein once said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. What I think is even more insane is doing the same thing over and over again, knowing the results will be harmful, but doing the thing anyway. That is what it was like loving you. Knowing that it would be dangerous, knowing that each time you hurt me would not be the last, but returning anyway for the sake of what I don't even know, but for some reason I was convinced I was tied to your soul. It was like being in a terrible dream, where I was aware that I was falling, but for some reason crashing felt free, when true freedom could only be found on the other side of my insanity. Albert Einstein, you were right, but some of us can see the results. We just can't leave.
When you're asleep, I can pretend that you are still the person you used to be. Your breath still moves in and out like ocean tides, calming and consistent. You still smell like honey, and your hair still falls in soft piles on the pillow. Your lips are still the ones that told me you would stay. And the way that you twitch as you fall deeper asleep reminds me that somehow you're the same. I can pretend not to know that in your chest, your heart beats for her and not for me.
I wasn't happy, but I was with you. And truthfully, happiness was the least of the things I would sacrifice to love you. I know that I'm supposed to put myself first, but I was putting myself first, because what I wanted more than anything was to be yours. It took me a long time to accept that sometimes love is leaving. Sometimes love is watching from a distance while you grow on your own. Sometimes love is knowing that your hand will be much better held by someone else. I never knew it would feel so heavy to stop holding you, but I never understood that holding you was pinning your wings to your sides. And though I am without you now, it is remarkable to watch you fly.
And it isn't that I don't love you. It's just that I think some people are far better at loving from a distance. I think perhaps I am an art gallery look don't touch kind of lover. The kind that admires but never gets close enough to do any damage. The kind that traces every detail with my eyes but deprives my heart of knowing you completely. Some might think that it's cruel, and some might find it sad, but forever spent admiring you from afar is the best forever I've ever had. Somewhere between then and now, you went from my person to someone I don't even speak to anymore. Somewhere between then and now, we went from meet you at your house to 2,000 miles apart. Somewhere between then and now, we went from let me tell you a secret to a text that's been unanswered for months. Somewhere between then and now, we went from fighting and slamming doors to quiet forgiveness and silent understanding. Somewhere between then and now, I accepted that some relationships stay in then, and never make it to now.
My anger built up in the quiet, loud way, like dirty dishes in the sink, like text messages written but never sent, like the way I drive a little faster when I pass by your house. I never let you know how much it really hurt me to watch you go. Instead of letting it out, I let it seep into my bones. I think that was my mistake, because I let your choice become me. I took your decision and I wrote the word unlovable on my forehead and scratched the word abandoned into my palms as if this was my burden to carry. So I'm tired of being quietly angry and wearing words that were never mine. I am not unlovable. You are just unkind. I was not abandoned. You left me behind. I tried to drink healing like it was bleach. I tried to consume anything that I thought would help erase your memory. I consumed books, I listened to music, I distracted myself using other people. I thought that I could clean out my head and make these bloodstains white. So intently focused on removing the stains, I forgot that I was still bleeding. There is no use trying to clean up in the midst of a disaster. No one attempts to rebuild in the middle of an earthquake. You don't perform CPR on people with open wounds. You can't try to erase your scars when your cuts are still open. I've discovered that trying to force premature growth is suppression. Trying to heal too quickly is like poison, and there's nothing more potent than pouring bleach into open wounds. They always said, when you meet the one, you'll know. And I think that phrase is supposed to bring clarity, but it just makes me feel confused because I knew. I knew with you. I was so sure that you could balance the universe on my certainty, but suddenly I've lost all certainty in the space between who I thought you were and the silhouette of your figure walking out the door. So now that stupid phrase echoes in my head, when you meet the one, you'll know. But I knew once, and you let me go.
There's a leaky faucet in my mind, and it keeps dripping and dripping and dripping, and I can hear it in the background all the time, and I suppose we could give this leaky faucet a name if we wanted to, and I suppose we could name it after you, but admitting that I can't get you out of my head feels like a battle I'm losing, because I know that there isn't a leaky faucet named after me in your head, and I know that you aren't getting distracted by the dripping while you're driving to work or cooking dinner or laying in bed staring at the ceiling. So for the sake of my pride, I'm just going to pretend that it's a leaky faucet, but on the off chance that you can hear it too, I wanted you to know that I'm thinking of you.
In case she asks about me, don't tell her about how it ended. Tell her how it began. Tell her that you loved me once. That once upon a time I was the soul you trusted your secrets with, the shoulder you buried your head in after a long day. Tell her how we danced in empty parking lots and laughed with the moon until 2 a.m. I know that everything has changed and that the sun has set on the love we had, but if she asks about me, tell her about the good times, not the bad.
I have this hunch that you would love me on days where I feel utterly unlovable, and that is what scares me. Because you are good, so good, all the way down to your bones you are kind, and what if I ruin that? What if my bruised heart is like a plague and I infect yours in time? So if I seem distant, it's not because of the quality of your heart, but rather the brokenness of mine. The difference is that you had to lose me to realize that you loved me, but I loved you all along. It's just that if I were a song, I wonder if I would be your favorite, or just something you play in the background to drown out your thoughts, the song that you don't turn off when it comes on the radio, but you don't necessarily turn it up. I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out, is if I'm just a space filler, a distraction, a stepping stone on the way to someone you will truly love. I think the sad part is that I would gladly fill this space, just to be with you, just so I can tag along. I will happily be your not-so-favorite song. I know now that this is how it works. You don't get to keep everyone in your life forever. There are some people that are just meant to be a sunrise for you, a light to pull you out of the darkness. There are friends, lovers, relationships that are seasonal, and no matter how deep of a conversation you had with that person at 2 a.m., no matter how much you shared your heart, even if you can still draw the lines of their smile like the map of a too familiar road in the back of your mind, there almost always comes a time to move on, a time to let go. And regardless of the letting go, I just wanted you to know that you're always going to feel a little bit like home to me. No matter how temporary, it is still beautiful that I got to call so many hearts my home. You will find someone who stays when you're at your worst. You will find someone who wants to hold you together when you feel like you're shattered. When you come home at 4 a.m., they will be waiting at your door. When your mind runs wild and you turn into a hurricane, they will stay. You will find someone who won't let you storm on your own. I don't know how to love anyone without making them a part of me, which means I don't know how to lose anyone without losing a piece of myself. What's your favorite color? That's the first question you asked, but there was something different in the way you asked it. You looked at me intently as if my favorite color might reshape your universe. When can I see you again? This time, the question was mine. It fell from my lips and landed in the space between us before I could stop myself. Hopefully soon, you replied. Soon became tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that. We never seemed to run out of questions to be asked. What's your favorite color became what makes you feel alive, and will you please stay? But one day, the questions started to change. Why can't we make this work? Is it worth it? Where are you? Do you still want this? Do you still love me? And a knot formed in my chest because I already knew the answer but couldn't admit it yet. So we stopped talking. We stopped asking questions. We stopped seeing each other. And we both wait for the next person to ask. You don't have commitment issues. I know you think you do, but you must realize not committing is simply committing to something else. Every commitment has a counter commitment. If you don't jump into the river, you're committing to stay on land. You're not afraid of commitment. You're afraid to take a risk. You're afraid to drown. I hope you find what you're looking for on land. I told you that you remind me of springtime, and I didn't lie. I just forgot that seasons are temporary, and you can't tell spring to stay the same way you can't ask the sun not to set. But sometimes, I can close my eyes and remember the feeling of sunlight, the smell of a fresh start, and the sound of birds singing again. Thank you for reminding me that things will be good again, even if it was only for a season. It's okay to say, I miss you, but you don't deserve me. Realizing that your feelings are real and cause real heartache is okay. What isn't okay is allowing those feelings to drag you around to places that are harming you. You will miss them. They were a big part of your life and a big part of you. But take a deep breath and know that you were whole before them, and you are whole without them. One step at a time.
They don't see it all. The people who are telling you to let it go, all they see is the destruction of a broken relationship. They see the tears and fights and frustration. They see the ugly, broken parts. They see what is left. They don't see how the ruins were once a castle, the rubble was once an architectural masterpiece. This love wasn't always so broken. It's easy to tell you to walk away when they can't see all that you're walking away from.
Probably friends. Possibly lovers, but definitely not nothing. Those were the three thoughts in my mind the first time your path crossed mine, when I saw those eyes for the first time. Then I learned your favorite color. Realized how easily you paint a smile across my serious disposition. I started practicing learning you, thinking about you a little too much in my spare time. Then the three thoughts changed. Probably lovers. Possibly friends, but definitely not nothing. Then things started to change. I realized the love only went one way. I started anticipating the feeling of you pulling away. Your sentences became shorter as my grip became stronger on a love that was falling through my fingertips. You took my smile as easily as you had given it. And the three thoughts chimed one more time. Probably nothing. Possibly friends. But definitely not lovers. I thought in order to get over you, I had to learn how to unlove you. But I don't think that's true anymore. It hurts enough to lose someone, but trying to hate you hurts me more. I refuse to be the person burning t-shirts out of anger, cutting your face out of photos when it ends, acting like 3 months ago I didn't call you my best friend. Then I know there's time and space between us now. I know you've moved on, and I have too. But there's a sliver of my heart that will always belong to you. I don't care, is what I said. But I meant it in the way flowers pretend not to care about the winter snow. They stand there frozen, unaffected, but as soon as the snow melts away, they fall to pieces. Petal by petal, they surrender to the cold. I don't care, is what I said. But I wilted as soon as you turned your head. All my hope fell like petals to the floor, along with every I love you you ever said. I don't care, is what I said. And inside me, something once alive was now dead. I think I've been sad for longer than I've been alive. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but let me explain. All we are is energy, passed from one form of life to the next, and before I became myself, I was something else instead. I was a wilted flower or a stormy sea. I was the last light from a dying star. I was a fallen teardrop. I was the final autumn leaf. I was I love you whispered too late or too far. From the start, my soul has been mourning from some loss that never belonged to me. I'm convinced that some people come into this world carrying a bit of hand-me-down grief.
Those 3 words come out of your mouth like a habit, like we're in a movie and this was the obvious turn of events, like the words I love you were just written into the script. I know I should say it back, like the girl in the movie always does, but I can't help but hope there is something more to love than a coordinated exchange and expected order of events, than a line that you say to move the plot along. Please tell me that love is more than a performance that we're all putting on.
I thought that my heartache was a symptom of you leaving, but it's still here long after you're gone, and I'm starting to think that it isn't your fault, and maybe there's something more that's wrong. Like maybe I've always felt unlovable, and you just reinforced my doubts. Maybe there's always been a hole in my heart, and you just turned it inside out, and finally I can see how empty it's been, and how you are not to blame. My heartache is just a symptom of existing. You were just a player in the game. My biggest fear is that we were meant to be. What if we were wrong, and we missed out on all the ways we were supposed to love each other? What if timing and space was just an excuse that we used to separate 2 hearts that beat simultaneously? Maybe we are going to live the rest of our lives watching the wrong story unfold. They told me my job description, but I think I've got it wrong. They said I was supposed to man the lighthouse and save lost ships from going down. But every time I saw the ships, I forgot about the light. I dove headfirst into the sea and swam to save their life. I drowned us both in the process. The ships never reached the shore. I ended up helping less when I meant to be helping more. I think when they told me to save people with my light, I mistook their words and tried to save people with my life. I know I should have turned the light on. I know I should have taken their advice. But I don't know what love is if it is not sacrifice. There's a room in my heart that's designated for you. I hung pictures on the walls and I painted them your favorite shade of blue. I invited you to stay as long as you'd like, and I secretly hoped it'd be a very long time. But people grow apart, and stories end, and time isn't always the most reliable friend.
So inside my heart, there will always be a space for you, and the door will always be open in case you want to walk back through.